Within this vast realm of video games, there are a great many series that I would count among my favorites. Ask me which of these is my favorite, and my answer is Mario. He's my ride or die guy for life, Clive. But ask me which is my second favorite, and my answer could vary wildly based on my mood, or the weather, or how my star alignment is doing. Ask me what I think the greatest series of video games is, and I would say The Legend of Zelda. It needs no introduction, and my statement needs no defense. The Legend of Zelda series is hands down the most important, innovative, and iconic series of action-adventure video games that has ever been made. If you went out into Times Square and asked this buck-ass naked old lady with a guitar to name a fantasy video game franchise, she would probably say The Legend of Zelda. These are all games that I would argue are genuine masterpieces of game design and artistry. Not only that, I have been personally affected by these games on a spiritual level. I adore every single one of them. They have valiantly served not only as incredibly fun and well-made video games, but also as genuinely meaningful works of fiction, whose stories and themes have become inseparable from my sense of self. I am what some would call a Zelda fan. It is for that reason that in 2017, I, along with everybody else, was reaching critical levels of hype on account of the series' newest game, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. It was marketed as a grand shakeup of the series. Eiji, the Grandmaster Aonuma, and his crack team of masters were quote-unquote rethinking the foundations of Zelda. Looking back, it's safe to say that Breath of the Wild fully delivered on its promise. The Zelda series has not been the same since. Now, I'm not going to review Breath of the Wild, not in this video at least, but I will of course say here that it is every bit as good as everyone says it is, and more. Like, the game is an absolute masterpiece, but see, there's one thing I'd like to discuss today. One tiny little detail about this game that has vexed me and many others from the moment the game was revealed. Link was right-handed. When the original Legend of Zelda released in 1986, the hero of Hyrule, Link, was portrayed as left-handed. This would stick around as one of his character traits. He always wields his sword with his left hand. Not only that, but he also holds his bow with his right hand and draws the string back with his left, which is accurate to how real left-handed archers practice. At face value, there's no real significance to this. It doesn't affect the way you play the game in any way. You just press the sword button and he swings his sword with his left arm. It also has no effect on the story or the characters. Link being left-handed has, as far as my knowledge at least, never once been mentioned by anyone at any point in the entire story of any of these games. Nevertheless, I think it's a really awesome detail. Did you know that Mr. Miyamoto himself is left-handed? The story goes that this was why he chose to make Link left-handed in the first place. He didn't see many other video game heroes who used their left hand like he did, and being in the position to create a new one, he chose to change that. Just casually pushing boundaries like any true artist. I find it hard to believe that a passionate, creative man like him, who has shown time and time again that he cares deeply for his creations, would sit idly by and watch this personal, meaningful piece of himself be gutted from one of his babies. Like, could you imagine what Tetsuya Nomura would do to you if you redesigned Sephiroth with like a mullet or something? I don't even want to think about it. In the manual for the original game, you can see these little drawings of a seemingly right-handed Link. At first I thought that maybe this was just some ignorant American tomfoolery, but No, here are those same drawings in the Japanese manual for the Disk System version. And it's not just these little drawings, there are a few pieces of key game scenario artwork that seem to depict a right-handed hero. Oh, and there's also these weird drawings of the Disk System itself as like a living being, basically telling you what not to do with it. I like this one where it looks like it's pleading for its life. That's nice. And, this one, where it's being brutally crushed under some fiend's greasy toes. Now, being fair, this is literally the first game. Link and The Legend of Zelda as we know them now really didn't exist yet. Plus, with how much of a clusterfuck game development was back in the 80s, it's really a wonder anything got accomplished at all. It was probably just an honest mistake that slipped through the cracks. Holy shit, breaking news! I have just received confirmation that the manual was altered for a Japan-exclusive re-release in 1994. Those funny little drawings of right-handed Link have all been redrawn, and would you look at that? Fixed. Someone at Nintendo with some goddamn integrity felt that this was worth addressing. Hats off to you, sir, ma'am. See, this right here is what I'm fucking talking about. This is all the confirmation I need that Mr. Miyamoto had made the decision to stick with a left-handed Link at the very beginning of the hero's life. And so, Link was a lefty for every single game in the series moving forward. A champion for left-handed gamers everywhere. Except, of course, that's not what happened. In Breath of the Wild, the hero Link is portrayed as right-handed. This confuses and upsets me. They literally had no reason at all to change it. I understand that this game was about rethinking the conventions of Zelda, but did you really have to rethink Link being left-handed? It's such a subtle touch, such a superb little piece of characterization. For those of you who don't already know, roughly 1/10 of the human race is left-handed. That is a decided minority. And you want to know what causes this? Literally nobody knows. All of the scientists in the world can get together in their stupid lab coats and write down their stupid fucking data or whatever until the cows come home, but not one of them can tell you for sure why the concept of handedness even exists at all. For all of recorded history, it's just been an accepted trait of some special people to be left-handed. This makes lefties a sort of four-leafed clover, a natural rarity, like a shiny Pokemon or an albino alligator. The left-handed are inherently special. This lines up perfectly with the established mythos of the hero Link as a chosen one, an individual who possesses exactly the traits necessary to perform an act of great heroism and deliver us all from evil. I bet a lot of left-handed kids growing up playing these games thought that Link being a lefty like them was pretty damn cool. Left-handed people have historically been treated pretty poorly, as minorities often are, with countless schools of writing teaching that being left-handed was a deformity, and that you would just have to learn to write the same way as everyone else rather than ask themselves how they could rethink the system that they put in place to better accommodate your needs. While Link being left-handed isn't the be-all, end-all of who he is, it is still part of who he is. It is an intentional, artistic decision made by the creator and should be treated with due respect. My point is that these details matter. However insignificant they may seem, they matter. And I think it's these types of details that can lead to something becoming more than the sum of its parts. They are what separates a good product from a great piece of art. And if Nintendo is willing to slack on this detail, who's to say they won't slack on more? Now, up to this point, I've been speaking as if Breath of the Wild is the first game in the series to break this time-honored tradition. I've been speaking as if every prior game in the series has had perfect behavior regarding the handedness of their heroes. Any Zelda scholars in the audience can tell you that this is not the case. No, Breath of the Wild was in fact not the first game to feature a right-handed Link. Skyward Sword released 6 years earlier, and Link is right-handed in that game. Not only that, but the Wii version of Twilight Princess, the version with the vast majority of players, also features a right-handed Link. So why am I focusing on Breath of the Wild? Shouldn't I be aiming my autism assault at one of these games? Well, let me explain. What I am hung up on here is why. The why of it all. Why did Nintendo make Link right-handed? And with these two games, there is no question. The answer is obvious. The Wii. Twilight Princess was designed for the GameCube, but saw a vastly more popular release on the Wii. You can actually see in this E3 footage recorded just 6 months before release that Link was going to be left-handed. You were going to swing the sword with the B button and shield bash by pushing the Wiimote forward, matching up with how Link holds his shield. Apparently, Mr. Miyamoto noticed a lot of people on the E3 show floor would try to swing the Wiimote like it was a sword, which I think is a pretty natural response to being handed a Wiimote and seeing Link on screen. So, to better fit with what people wanted from the Wii and its unique abilities, the controls received a healthy dose of waggleification. Since this major decision was made basically at the last possible second, it was a pretty sloppy job. All they did was replace the B button input with a shake of the Wiimote, and they made Link right-handed by mirroring the entire game. I remember playing the Wii U remaster years later and getting royally fucked up navigation-wise. Play the superior GameCube original or the Wii U remaster and you will be met with Link wielding his blade southpaw style, like any proper hero would. As for Skyward Sword, that game was designed from the ground up to take full advantage of the Wii's motion controls, with Wiimote swordplay as its premier mechanic. Apparently IGN reported on there being a left-handed option. I wonder how they got that impression. I know IGN is a total laughingstock and it would be easy to say they just messed up, but I don't know, I have a hard time imagining that they just hallucinated seeing a left-handed option and then went and wrote an article about it. Maybe there was originally going to be one. There really should have been. With Twilight Princess, I at least can understand that the change was last minute. Plus, that game doesn't require precise sword swings like Skyward Sword does. You can just kind of shake the Wiimote like you're jerking off and Link will do the rest. It's a pretty shitty thing to design an entire game around a motion-controlled sword and not think to include an option for left-handed people, especially a Legend of Zelda game starring Link, famous left-handed hero. Like, come the fuck on. Seriously, Nintendo's latter Wii era of sloth and decadence is truly a tale of biblical proportions. The sole, singular reason that we had 2 right-handed Zelda games was so that Nintendo didn't have to spend any money or effort on adding accessibility features to their games, and instead sit on their asses and soak up every last drop of that sweet, sweet Wii-era gravy train. Case closed. With all that said, I ask you again, why was Link right-handed in Breath of the Wild? That game had no motion controls to speak of outside of some simple gyro aiming. With the loss of the waggle stick, Nintendo had the perfect opportunity to return Link to his left-handed glory. Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword's right-handed antics remaining as blemishes of the Wii era, simple flukes rather than prevalent talking points. And yet, here I am, talking about them, because Nintendo did not return Link to his rightful state, they callously left him behind. Unlike before, this action was motivated not by greed, but something else. The only explanation that I can think of is that this decision was made as part of the initiative to reboot the series, the whole rethinking the conventions of Zelda thing. I mean, they got rid of his pointy green cap and his tunic. Nothing is safe, right? Well, that would make sense if Link being left-handed was a convention of Zelda, but it just isn't. With his pointy green cap and tunic, I completely agree that it got a little silly having to keep thinking of new reasons for why Link has to wear this specific outfit. It reached a point where when Link put it on for the first time, it was presented as this big, epic superhero suit-up kind of scene, with characters saying dumb shit like, "Link, you were born to wear this funny green hat because you are a character in a video game franchise." Like, I can totally understand the developers growing weary of that. Go crazy, change Link's outfit. It's dumb to cling to things that you no longer feel any connection with. But that logic doesn't apply to Link's handedness. That does not affect gameplay or story presentation in the slightest. It is only a detail. A cool, iconic, beloved detail, but still just a detail. Now, I don't know if this was some sort of translation error or journalism blunder, but apparently, when asked, Mr. Aonuma responded with this complete load of fucking horseshit. "The button you use to swing the sword is on the right side of the controller. It is for this reason that we chose to make Link right-handed." I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about AG the Grand Master Aonuma, not Takashi Shitlips Izuka. That answer is verifiable nonsense. Every single game in this entire series, as well as every other game in every other entire series, features directional input on the left side of the controller with face buttons on the right. By this logic, as stated with a straight face by one of the most loved and respected video game developers in history, it is simply incorrect to make a video game hero left-handed. Wow. How do you like that one, lefties? How does that make you feel? Not only is Link going to be right-handed now, but he will remain that way for as long as face buttons go on the right side of the controller. You know, the right side, like God intended. What a fucking joke. Okay, so I've had my fun. I've been yelling at this cloud for a little while now, making a big stink over this tiny detail and all that fun stuff. But now, it's time to change gears. What if I told you that there is, actually, a simple explanation for all of this? One revelation that single-handedly makes everything right in the circles of Link-handedness discussion. What if I told you that Link is not, nor has he ever been left-handed? Now, wait a damn minute, I hear you say. How could that be? We've already established that Link has been portrayed as left-handed ever since the series' inception and at the behest of its creator. All of this right-handed chicanery has only appeared in more recent times, with the vast majority of the series otherwise following the established tradition of a left-handed hero. So, on what basis could I argue that Link is not, nor has he ever been left-handed? Well, why don't you have a seat right over there and I'll tell you. Let's go back to the beginning, with Mr. Miyamoto. See, in my recent research for this video, I discovered that I didn't quite have the full story. It turns out that he is actually not left-handed, but ambidextrous. Though he typically prefers his left hand, he uses his right to paint calligraphy. I guess the way the Japanese speak about handedness is a little different than how we Westerners do. A little detail that was lost in translation, most likely. This changes everything. This means that if Mr. Miyamoto based Link's handedness off of his own, which we know he did, then that would mean Link is not left-handed either, but ambidextrous, with a left-handed preference. While roughly 1 in 10 people are left-handed, roughly 1 in 100 people are ambidextrous. You lefties think you're cool? Mathematically speaking, ambidextrous people are as cooler than you as you are cooler than us righties. If lefties are four-leafed clovers, ambidextrous people are fucking five-leafed clovers. They are shiny, legendary Pokemon. They are albino unicorns. Earlier, I discussed the manual for the original game, but in the actual video game itself, Link can actually be seen wielding his sword with his right hand if he attacks while facing east. Obviously, you could chalk this up to NES hardware limitations and simple sprite mirroring techniques used during the time, but if that were the case, you'd think he would use his right hand facing west too, but he doesn't. He uses it when facing 1 out of 4 directions. In A Link to the Past, it's the same way. Link swings his sword with his left hand in 3 out of 4 directions, but uses his right when facing east. Huh. Coincidence? Well, no. At least not according to the official player's guide. According to this excellent piece of literature, the people of Hyrule have noticed this quirk too, with some explaining that Link is abiding by a long-held boyhood superstition that one should always keep his shield pointed towards Death Mountain to ward away its emanating evil. Wow, what a sick-ass piece of flavor text. I live for shit like this. Whoever wrote this clearly enjoyed and understood the game at a very deep level and wanted to share it with the world. Zelda 2 and Link's Awakening are the same way. You can see right here with your own eyes that Link has been holding his sword with his right hand when it suits him ever since the very beginning. This detail disappeared with the advent of polygons over pixels. It doesn't make any sense to redo Link's animations facing one way or another when he's a 3D character in 3D space. But this proves that Nintendo has always been A-okay with Link using whatever hand is most convenient for him at the time, lining up with how Mr. Miyamoto probably goes about his daily life. And you know, honestly, I'm cool with this. Link being ambidextrous, I think, is fitting for him. He's always been portrayed as an adept, fast learner, specializing in creative thinking and deft decision-making. Though this still doesn't quite answer my question, it does make me feel a good bit sillier for asking it. Why is Link right-handed in Breath of the Wild? Well, he isn't. He's ambidextrous, just like he is in every other game. Okay, well, then why does he hold his sword with his right hand in this game, but his left in almost every other? The only issue I have left to grasp onto is that he should prefer his left hand. Could there be any other reason, no matter how small, that could come along and tip the scales, finally convince me that all of this makes sense? It's in times like these that I turn to the fans. Fans, of course, have an uncanny ability to make sense of what is inherently nonsensical. And in this case, I'm happy to report that the fans delivered. Consider this: Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild, the only 2 games where Link canonically prefers his right hand, are also the only 2 games where Link canonically grows up with regimented, formal training as a knight. Most ancient schools of the blade teach a right-handed style, and Link, as an ambidextrous king, would have no issue at all learning the sword in this manner, thus making perfect in-universe sense. While obviously I'm sure Nintendo did not think of this, I, for one, am willing to believe it. As a fan, sometimes you have to pick up the pieces left behind by the creators and try to make sense of them yourself. Actually, scratch that. You don't have to. You get to. That's part of the fun of fantasy, filling in the blanks. I could stick my nose up and say that this whole ambidextrous knight training theory is a load of shit just because Nintendo hasn't given their official seal on it. But what kind of a bootlicking asshat would do that? I say to you, thank you, fan theorists. Thank you for caring. Overall, after reviewing the evidence, I am confident in saying that Link, like his creator, is ambidextrous. And with that fact established, I, and hopefully many of you, can be at peace. The whole time, the answer was right in front of us. When I arrived at this realization, I physically felt the wind taken out of my sails. I felt like Elizabeth Bennet at the end of Pride and Prejudice. The perceived evil was not but a reflection of my own ignorance. There is no longer any crusade, any notion of right or wrongdoing, no narrative to conclude, no adversary to overcome. I am only left with a newfound understanding and appreciation of what I do not understand. I had no intention of actually making a video on this topic. What I said at the end of my first video was a joke. It was funny because it was such a hilariously small and insubstantial topic. Then I saw this video by Rusty Nails expressing his experience as a lifelong left-handed Zelda fan and how he felt let down by Nintendo. I don't know, it really spoke to me. It just got me thinking about Zelda and led to this video's creation. A self-fulfilling prophecy, much like Link's own life.